just have to ignore stupidity. God protects all fools and babies, and I'm nobody's baby. You don't have to laugh that hard. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit. Bye.
A few days after that phone conversation, I scheduled a visit to an OB/GYN. I didn't have one of my own, so my daughter gave me the name of the one she visits. Yes, this visit became my first in, I can't tell you how many years. But I had to go because I needed to find out why I had been having what I thought was a very long menstrual period. Believe it or not, I never went a single month since the age of 14 without having a monthly period, except when I was pregnant. I really didn't think anything of it until I began bleeding every day and using 4 to 5 extra large purple pads. The doctor did a vaginal exam and discovered 2 things. Number 1, my uterus had fallen, quote unquote, and number 2, there was a growth behind my uterus. At this point, he said he needed to do a biopsy to determine if whether or not that growth was cancer. Within the next few days, I was scheduled for a 3rd doctor's appointment to get the results of the biopsy that was done during the 2nd visit. At the 2nd visit, the doctor explained if the results were benign, he would be able to remove the tumor using mechanical equipment and a laser. Otherwise, he would refer me to a specialist. He never said it was cancer. Instead, he just simply asked me to meet him in his office. I had taken my mother with me to the appointment for moral support. He knew what he had to tell me, but he didn't want to do it in front of her. What he didn't realize was my mom, having been a 10-year cancer survivor herself, was much stronger than me. I remember it just like it was yesterday. The doctor was so calm that I almost thought he wasn't serious at all and instead playing a very bad joke on me. When he finally told me it was cancer, I literally and slowly melted into the floor until I was sitting there crying into my hands like a baby. I remember there being about 3 other doctors in his office attending to other business. None of them came to my aid, but instead asked, "What's wrong with her?" It seemed like none of them had taken it as seriously as I did. Did they not understand how important this was? Did they not know of the death sentence cancer delivers with its own unrelenting strike of its gavel? I now realize they were probably immune to this kind of news because it was so normal. Wow. Is cancer really this common? On the drive home, I wanted so badly to scream, to yell, and to question God out loud, but chose not to because I didn't want my mother to worry about me. I had to be strong for her. Although this was one of the weakest times of my life because there was absolutely nothing I could do to take it away. When we got home, I went directly to my bedroom and prayed like I hadn't prayed in a long time. I remember reciting the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. I remember reciting Matthew 7:7, ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be opened. I remember reciting John 15:7, if ye abide in me and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will and it shall be done unto you. I remember reciting Psalms 37:4, take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. At that time in my life, I felt it necessary to remind God of his promises. Just as quickly as I'd begun to recite my arsenal of biblical references, I began to doubt my relationship with God. After all, why would he allow me to get cancer? Why? Never once thinking, I am one of his chosen ones. At the end of my third visit, my doctor had scheduled an appointment for me to go to MedStar Washington Hospital Center in Washington, D.C. on the very next day. I met with the top oncologist there. After examining me, he explained a tumor was growing behind my uterus and in front of my rectum. I definitely needed surgery. He said his plan of action was to remove it via laparoscopic surgery, making small incisions in my abdomen and removing the tissue through these incisions. He further explained, sometimes when cancerous tissue is found in the uterus, it may also spread to the ovaries and fallopian tubes, etc., and a full hysterectomy would be recommended. Without thinking twice, I opted to have a full hysterectomy to avoid it spreading to these areas. Besides, I had no intentions of having more children, so I was okay with giving up this part of my body. His small talk was offered with normal tone, asking what my life interests were. I decided to open up to him and told him about my acting career and recent retirement to pursue that acting career. As a matter of fact, I had an upcoming stage performance. Here's where I couldn't believe what came out of my mouth. When he suggested the date of surgery, which was in about a week or so, I, without missing a beat and ignoring the fact that the initial report indicated a stage 4 tumor, I asked if I could put the surgery off until next month because there wasn't enough time for the director to replace me in an upcoming production which was to take place in just a couple of weeks. In my heart, I wasn't being prima donna-ish. I was really concerned about the production. Not only was I one of the main actors, but I was a board member of the organization hosting the performance and understood full well about all of the funds, etc., that had already been spent to produce the stage play and how much we stood to lose if we did not go through with the production. Crazy me. The surgery lasted a few hours. I never asked how many hours, but I do remember going into the operating room during the morning light, but not being admitted to the hospital until the night hours. I was told during surgery I received 2 pints of blood. The next day, I was released to go home to heal from having a full hysterectomy. I remember being told there was a very strong possibility the cancer had not spread. Hallelujah! Thank you, God. I was elated. During my follow-up visit to the oncologist, he said something I was not prepared to hear. He suggested I begin receiving chemo treatments as soon as possible. At that very instant, I seemed to lose my hearing. Everything became foggy. My heart sank, and again I cried like a baby. I could see him standing there and his lips were moving, but literally I could not hear anything he was saying. My daughter later explained to me his recommendation for chemo because he was not 100% sure the smallest of cancer cells had not attached itself to my insides. She asked him about the possibility of getting a second opinion. He was okay with that, but said it was the only treatment available to combat this enemy. He said the only way to be sure would be to start receiving these chemo treatments immediately and without delay every 3 weeks for 6 treatments. My immediate thought? My hair! Once I got home, I also remembered another event that involved me and money. OMG. The cruise! There were plans for me to go on an all-expense-paid cruise. I got on the phone right away with my doctor's office to ask if I could postpone my treatments. He strongly suggested I not, because number one, if there were cancer cells lingering, they could begin growing again in a matter of days. And number two, if I were injured on the cruise or contracted a disease on the cruise, I could be at a higher risk for a serious infection. When going through chemo, it helps to have a strong team to support you and go with you to these treatments. My immediate team consisted of my husband, Ciosi, my daughter, Antonita, or Tony, and a young lady by the name of Maya. That's a long I, not a short one. Maya had survived 3 bouts of ovarian cancer and became my number one go-to with all my cancer-related questions and concerns. She'd come to the house to visit me and talk beforehand about her experience with this beast and to, of course, offer her shoulder, arm, neck, whatever I needed to cry on. She brought me literature and a journal to begin writing about my own experience. My initial team is awesome. At least one of them went with me to each treatment, and I'm so very grateful to them. I guess you're wondering why I did not include my mom. That's because my mom's type of cancer was breast cancer. Maya's cancer was closely related to the type of cancer I had. There was a whole routine I had to strictly follow before arriving at the hospital for my treatments. That routine included having blood work done and taking pills prior to being administered to the infusion center for 2 chemo medicines along with an IV of Benadryl. Each infusion session lasted roughly 8 hours. I couldn't remember if I asked first or if my daughter asked me about my hair, but she told me of a cold cap technique some women are using so they wouldn't lose their hair. After researching and finding out the results were not guaranteed and my head would be extremely cold, I opted out. I'm not one to waste time. Plus, if you really know me, you know I don't like cold weather. Snow, snow, go away, come again another day is my winter motto. During my second infusion treatment session, I, however, did ask my nurse about the cold cap technique. She said there were some patients who tried it and it worked, and others not so much. She suggested I go home on that night and cut all of my hair off. What? She said losing your hair is very traumatic, especially if you have a good amount of hair, which I had hair. She said you will probably cry anyway, but why not do it all at once and under your control? She said it can be very upsetting to see clumps of your hair fall out over several days. So I followed her recommendation, bought a set of clippers, and cut all of my hair off. Well, as close as I could get to my scalp. Believe it or not, cutting my hair did make me cry. But I didn't cry day after day after day. It was very liberating to know that I had made the decision to end my relationship with my hair and not chemo. Although I did not want to play the hand that I was dealt, I have come to accept knowing God's love for me is greater than any negative situation I may be met with. The amount of love He has for me, I could never have for anyone else. So having walked this journey, I have discovered a new closeness to God. I have discovered a new dependence on Him. I have experienced a new love for Him. I can only hope if you or anyone you may become aware of who might experience anything like this, just know He does give us more than we can bear so that we can depend on Him. Thank you for the time you've taken to watch and listen to my story. So, if you get marked, reset. Go. Live your life.
Go live your life, Grandma.
I would say the color of this conversation is magenta. Bold and beautiful, yet soft and unsure. And it's one I would have with myself. If I could turn back the hands of time, I would say, do not ignore the signs.